Ruling emotions. So we have a picture of the Buddha at the top, sitting there calmly, a picture of Jesus with his arms outstretched. The next one is Moses with his finger pointing down. The Statue of Liberty there, another big statue, and a really big statue of Buddha. I think that's Avalokiteshvara, the Buddha of compassion, Kuan Yin. And then some more statues of sun gods. But all of these statues can like evoke strong emotions from people just to see these statues. And the statue of the Buddha at the top reminds me, the reason I picked that one is because it reminds me of ruling over my emotions. Not suppressing them, but ruling with them. So I'm still ruling even though I have emotions. They'll be in moderation rather than overwhelming. That's maybe the whole point of Buddhism or other spiritual disciplines, is to rule emotions from an inside-out perspective, for me to rule my own emotions at a minimum. And there's also a statue of one of the recent popes, and then a statue of Mount Rushmore with the great heroes of American history. A few of the great heroes that we're told about. So now I begin the story of the text down there. A disciple had come a long way to ask this question of the teacher: which emotion rules over all of the rest? So, you've climbed all the way up to the top of this mountain to ask me which emotion rules, said the teacher. Well, this must be an important question to you. The top of this mountain is also the perfect place to look over all the different realms of emotion. The realm of the hungry ghosts and the realm of the happy-go-luckies and all the different realms. So first, let's look at gratitude as a powerful emotion. It can be very powerful. Here's an image of a young child about to reunite with their father. You've got the welcome home daddy written on the big belly of the pregnant woman there. Another picture below that, two girls crying as they get reunited with their U.S. Army soldier father. So gratitude, really powerful emotion. If you try and talk to that little kid in the top photo that's waving at his dad, you try and talk to him about his favorite Yu-Gi-Oh character or his favorite Pokemon character or whatever, he's not interested. He's got so much gratitude in his experience that he's not going to be concerned about, oh, your elbow's bleeding. I don't care. They don't care if they poke their elbow and it's bleeding and it's dripping on their pants. Don't care. There's Daddy right over there. I'm waving at him. So, that's the first emotion that I'm inviting us to be aware of. Next to gratitude is joy. Imagine the joy of a group of people who've accomplished some success together. There's the young students who are graduating. There's another student graduating below that with her thumb up and a couple other fellow students there. There's a big group of students all throwing their graduation caps up into the air. So they have a lot of joy in that moment. There's a bunch of young teenage girls screaming because some celebrity is going near them or something. Here's a bunch of football players who are holding their helmets high in celebration of their success, or whether it's in this case, it's actually a picture of a football team, I believe a high school football team that went undefeated for an entire season, and they had this picture as something that they did for a newspaper or for a yearbook or whatever to commemorate their undefeated season. And below that, a statue of some soldiers hoisting up an American flag, a famous statue. So those are all, there's joy in getting that flag back up. It's been down, but we got it back up. Or coming back from a deficit to win a sporting event game to come back from a deficit, there'll be great joy, great celebration when the victory is finally complete, or when it's clear that the winning team will be victorious, for the fans of the team and in particular for the team. So in addition to gratitude and joy, there's also courage. Some challenges are so intimidating that it takes great courage to even begin. So the next image there is a house, a dwelling on fire. And then below that, a firefighter carrying a pretty small child there that's kind of dirty with soot. If you look at the body of the child, they've got, they've been in somewhere smoky and sooty, and hopefully they're conscious and alive and will recover. Next image down is the bomb squad of Lorain County, the sheriff department there. The young lady has her bomb squad uniform because she's training to go in and defuse a bomb. It takes some courage to even begin certain activities. It can be very frightening. Next image down is a rescue from a sinking boat. Somebody rescued on a helicopter. Next image, it's a little hard to see, but there's a waterfall and there's a hiking crew. There's two people, and then someone else, a third person, is actually on a flat sled, cot. I don't know what that's called exactly. There's a third person that's, injured, probably not a corpse, but that's even possible. But let's imagine that it's somebody who's broken their leg or their ankle or something, and they're getting hauled out, and somebody had to go in and rescue them. Next image with the helicopter, another mountain hiking incident. Someone was injured. A helicopter comes in to extract them and bring them to safety. It's awesome that we have that kind of technology where we can be a little bit more risky and courageous perhaps than people would have 1,000 years ago. We can go and hike, and if we get in trouble, we've got our cell phone and we've got our other hikers, and eventually they can get help and bring a helicopter to rescue us. Next image down is a guy in yellow carrying a child on their back. It looks like there's a flood or something there. Next image down is another person carrying a child. And then another one, it takes courage to begin on a tightrope. That takes some courage to begin. It might take a little bit of I don't know, maybe greed would be a factor. Maybe they want to be famous. Maybe they want to earn prize money. Maybe somebody said, I'll give you $10,000 if you walk across that, waterfall on a tightrope. We'll film it on TV, and maybe that helped them be courageous. Or maybe they got nothing, or maybe everybody discouraged them. Sometimes discouragement can spark courage as well. And then the last image in the courage series is a fella. I don't really know the circumstance behind this photo, but people are clapping for him. It looks like he's rescued another person. He's carrying him on his back in what's called a fireman's carry, because that's the way that firemen will carry people to rescue them. So those are three positive emotions: gratitude, with the soldier and family reuniting; joy, with people graduating from high school or college, things like that; and courage. Three very powerful emotions. However, there may be emotions so powerful that they would interrupt the momentum of any of those three emotions that we've mentioned so far. So imagine that, somebody's clapping, they're standing ovation, they're clapping for something, they're very grateful, they're clapping, our team is victorious, and they get a cell phone call, and it turns out, or a text message, and it turns out one of their family members is ill. That's going to immediately overwhelm their gratitude and their celebration with an interest in the well-being of, whatever person is. If there's a serious medical issue, they're going to shift. Their attention will shift. Their hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, they will shift. So even very powerful emotions can be overpowered by other emotions. A complete list of powerful emotions would include emotions that completely withdraw the ability to focus on anything else. For instance, someone was planning to be the grand marshal of an important parade with thousands of people intending to celebrate. All these people are going to attend the parade and they're going to celebrate, and they've got all their, they've got fireworks and they've got, I was going to say sprinklers. What's the thing when you light the little thing and it's, what's that called? Somebody help me? Sparklers. They've got their sparklers. So they're all, ready to celebrate. The parade is going to feature hundreds of courageous young men demonstrating their fitness and their boldness by running down the streets with some raging bulls. So there's a picture of one of the bulls and some people in the background running down the street. Here's another picture with two bulls and one guy, and then 4 bulls and lots of people. Wow, these bulls are just stampeding down the street. They're like 1,500 pounds. They've got big horns, and there's all these people going to run down the street in the parade. And somebody's going to be the grand marshal. So let's say it's you. Let's say you're going to be the grand marshal. As you imagine putting on your special clothes that you're going to be wearing as the grand marshal. So there's going to be a tremendous celebration. And you also can realize, though, not that you're going to think about this as you're putting on your clothes, but I'm reminding you, okay, you're done putting on your clothes. Great. Now, even the parade itself would stop if it was interrupted by a sudden unexpected noise. Any number of things would interrupt business as usual. Even a huge celebration like an annual, or every 4 years the Olympics, or every 1 year the Bull Run in Madrid. There could be a really important event, but it could be interrupted in a moment by a sudden unexpected noise. Something as simple as a sudden unexpected noise. The perception of that noise would lead the crowd, not just one person, but the entire crowd, their attention would shift into a reflexive, emotional refocusing, and a reflective refocusing of their attention, of their consciousness, of their awareness, their alertness. They would pay attention to that sound. They would forget, hey, 300 feet behind you are some bulls that are running at you quickly, but those bulls, they would also hear it. If there was a really loud noise, the bulls would be startled by that too, right? And the huge parade would momentarily be forgotten. People would look over and what's that sound? What's that noise? And the next picture is the 2 World Trade Center towers in New York City next to the Statue of Liberty. And then the next picture, an explosion. One of the 2 towers, actually both of them have smoke coming out of them. One of them is like just exploding in that moment. So there are emotions even more powerful than the joy of a big parade. One of the most powerful emotions is fright, but another one, like if you hear a sudden sound, if you're not deaf, or if you feel that rumble, you're going to be attentive to, is that a bull coming? Is that something safe? Is that a planned demolition? Is that a threat? Is that a threat to me? Is that sound representative of danger? Excuse me. All right. So one of the most powerful emotions, in addition to terror and being startled like that, fright, would be grief. Next image is in particular, one woman is leaning over a coffin with an American flag draped over it, probably a U.S. soldier, a body of U.S. soldiers in that coffin, probably her husband. So a grief can be really powerful. Imagine the job of officers. It could be police officers or military officers, and their job is to go up to the door of people whose family members have just died or are missing or whatever it may be. There's the sound of the knock on the door. The door opens. Okay, that's the sound of the knock. Then the door opens, and there are the solemn faces of the 2 officers there to inform someone of a death. So there's the 2 officers, and the person answers the door, And then one of the officers says, or asks one of those people whoever answers the door, "Is this your daughter in this picture?" And the parents, below that, you see the parents, they take the picture, they say nothing. They're kind of in shock maybe. And then they just look at the officers until they realize what's going on. It's not a joke. These are real officers. This is a real picture. And eventually one of the parents says, "Wait, you're not here because something happened to her, are you? She's going to be graduating from middle school next week. We've got her gown it just arrived 10 minutes ago from the cleaners. Nothing could happen to her." People could have a response even less than that. The next image looks like a funeral procession. And again, some people grieving there. So, do you remember that you're wearing the clothes of the Grand Marshal because you're expected at the celebration parade that's about to start in, a couple hours or whatever? Do you remember that? You're still gonna go there to lead everyone in the celebrations and act as the Grand Marshal, right? Everything's gathering for the ritual celebration. Everyone is gathering for the ritual celebration. Once a year we do this. And all those people are expecting you to lead the ceremonies. Nevertheless, you might be curious enough about the person in that picture and why the officer's there to continue speaking with these officers, at least briefly. Officers, you picked a very bad day to come and bother me with this issue, with news like this. I don't know what your news is, but this is a really bad day. Could you guys come? Maybe you should come back later, because right now I'm about to go and lead the big parade. So tell me quickly, what happened to the girl in the picture? The one you think might be my daughter. What happened? Next image I have down there is Kennedy dead. Assassin flees after shooting. One of the newspaper headlines from when President JFK, John F. Kennedy, was killed in the U.S. So I'm dramatizing here in this story the kind of response that we can associate with shock, with panic. People can go into denial. They can say, they could attack the officers verbally for, being unaware that I'm the Grand Marshal of the parade and you shouldn't be disturbing me on a day like this. This is really insulting. So there's a variety of ways that people can respond when they're confronted with stress. When someone's confronted with stress, there's a wide variety of ways they can respond. Disappointment, frustration, rage, blame, curiosity, or paralysis, like they just shut down. That's another possibility. So the story I've been telling about the Grand Marshal is ridiculous, and the police officers come to the door of the Grand Marshal and have the picture. It's ridiculous. Why is it ridiculous? It's silly because no one would go and lead a parade right after being informed that their child might be dead or is injured or missing or anything like that. They'd want to know about their child. They would resign from being the leader of the parade or whatever. Until they found out what's going on, the parade doesn't exist for them. So how can you even think about the parade? The next image I have is a woman really frustrated. She's saying to this man, "How can you even think about the parade? How can you think about it? How can you think about it? Your daughter, it might be dead. We need to form a search party. We need to go to the hospital. We need to take her go to the emergency room, and we need to bring her asthma medication, because if she doesn't have it, then da 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 da." And they're just this huge realignment of attention. Emotions surge up, and there's a realignment of attention. Next image down is a woman kind of with her hands up by her head. Are you crazy? You're not going to the parade. Next image down is a woman scolding her husband. Those people just killed your daughter, and yet you're still talking about what to wear to the parade? Okay, first of all, you're not going to the parade. You're not going to the parade. Then the next image, I think that is the First Lady of the United States there. I don't know if she's yawning, but the idea is that it's a angry picture. You better listen to me and listen good. You're going to get out there and avenge your daughter before I bite off your ear, Mr. Van Gogh. I do not want to see your face again until you find whoever did this to your daughter and make it right. Oh, and you do know what I mean by make it right, don't you? The next image, we've got a group of young men who are carrying another person. Next image, and I'm going to warn you here, I'll go ahead and warn you now, the next few images have some kind of graphic content, so feel free to skip it or scroll way down or whatever. There's a fella being buried down to his elbows or whatever. He's been put into a hole. And then some people back up, and once he's down in the hole, they get some big rocks, like bigger than a fist, and they throw these rocks down at the top of the man that's exposed out of the hole. And then the next image is the man who I believe at that point is no longer alive, is removed from the hole. So grief, the grief of a parent or anyone who's experienced the loss of someone that they love, it could be that they lost their pet goldfish. I lost I had a dog when I was in elementary school, and my dog died. And it was a powerful grieving process for me. I think that I was wanting to grieve, and I was looking for reasons to grieve. And when my dog died, it really opened up a reservoir of pressure, like a dam, and I had a lot of grief come out. When I was in late elementary school, I started to identify this one team, this one sports team that was the Florida Gators, and they were like that football team. They were the arch rivals of our local area. So almost everybody where I lived liked the arch rival of the Gators, and I picked the Gators, and it gave me an excuse to isolate myself from other people, or to say, oh, well, they don't like me because I'm a Gators fan. So this is a little bit off the subject of the images, but I created this story that allowed me to root for, to oppose my peer group and set myself aside from them. So I didn't join in on their celebrations. When my team lost, especially if my team lost to the local favorite team, I might actually cry or otherwise be upset enough that I really had a strong emotional response to the loss by my favorite football team. Or when my dog died, what actually happened is I opened the garage door and my dog ran out into the street from out of the garage and then got hit by a vehicle, and then we took the dog to the veterinarian, and the veterinarian said, well, your dog could survive, but it'd be, $3,000 in hip replacement surgery, and I don't know what they said, but my parents decided to put the dog to sleep. So I lost my dog that day, and I was, it was an emotional process for me that was really strong and powerful. And if I had repressed grief and repressed frustration and repressed disappointment, it came out. And I think that was a factor in my mom being so startled by my response that she bought me a new dog, I believe the next day. We went out and actually got a little terrier the next day, if I recall correctly. So grief, it's a very powerful emotion. It can be very disruptive. It can lead to blame and rage. Grief can lead to grievances, resentment, blame, contempt, even rage. Those extreme emotions can even lead to what I call rituals of human sacrifice. And here's where it gets really interesting, but it's also really challenging. I'm saying that rituals of human sacrifice are extremely common throughout human history. It's any time that someone's intentionally killed and it's planned, so it's like a ritual. And I think I'm going to pause in a moment here, but I'll say a little bit. As we start to talk about, patterns of violence and in planning of violence and groups of people getting together to do violence to another human or not to a human, it can raise intense emotions. One of the things that I know I'm really liable to be scared of is gunfire. It doesn't have to be near me. It doesn't have to be toward me. Gunfire is going to raise my alert levels. Loud firecrackers that sound anything like gunfire are going to raise my alert levels. If I was a veteran of some kind of military situation, or if I had lived in a urban ghetto where there was a lot of gunfire, then to hear a firecracker could produce really strong hormone responses in my brain and so on. So panic is for our health, but we can also explore how to gently create little vents for small amounts of panic and paranoia and fear and even, anger and so on. So the ancient Hebrew scripture of Ecclesiastes in the 2nd chapter, it says there's a time for both peace and for war, for both love and for hate, or I said for rage, for joy and rage. But in the scripture, actually, in English translations that I've seen, it actually does say love and hate, peace and war. So some violence is passionate and brief. Other violence is systematically planned and carefully cultivated, such as, I keep hiccuping, excuse me. Some violence is systematically planned and carefully cultivated, such as wars between two big groups or the organized violence of court systems against the citizens within their jurisdiction. So at this point, we're going to shift. I'm going to pause the recording. We're going to shift and we're going to talk about the importance of violence in the context of society. So we were previously talking about emotions for an individual. Now we're going to talk about emotions for groups of people. In particular, I think I'll be talking about violence and panic and paranoia, and we'll come back to that in a moment. Falls or what, but somebody walking across that